and the band is back together. Welcome to Fairway to Heaven, everybody. Right here on DSM Media, live, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. You know the drill. Retweet it out, share it, subscribe, thumbs up, everything you got to do right there to help continue to spread the word here. Fairway to Heaven on DSM Media. I am your host, Phil Stifel, at Beard of Knowledge, at Fairway to Heaven _ and back from the dead is my man, one of my closest friends, Jason Sullivan, at JSully2121. Good evening, Jason, and welcome back to the show.
Dude, it's so good to be back. I got your message earlier today with the link for the show, and I was so excited. It was just like old times again. It's like it never ended.
We're just gonna go on like we never missed a beat here.
That's right.
We're just gonna keep going, because we got the RBC Canadian Open back up to north across the border. Last week. Everything's been going on. I've had 2 bad weeks, but we're gonna talk a little bit of theory here in a minute about my lineups and how I want to change something up a little bit. And I want to get your thoughts on it. But the RBC Canadian Open, St. George's Golf and Country Club up in Toronto. I don't know. Have you ever been up to Toronto or Canada before? You're in Detroit. I mean, it's not too hard to get across the border from up there.
So I've been to Canada, but never Toronto. This course looks amazing from what I've been seeing. It looks just like a beautiful course.
Yeah, I was watching, I think it was Chris Murphy. I forget who it was. Somebody shared a YouTube link of a Google image of the entire course, and it went hole by hole from Google Maps. And it's just fantastic. I mean, it's narrow and tough. It's a smaller par 70, just over 7,000 yards. But it's kind of quirky in the sense where there's 3 par 5s and an extra par 3 too. So the scoring opportunities might be there this week. I don't know. There's not many courses that are par 70s that have 3 par 5s, are there?
No, there definitely isn't. This course, it's kind of misleading too. Like you said, 7,014 yards, but it's kind of misleading in the fact that because it's so narrow and the fairways are so narrow that you're going to have to club down. Like you're not going to be, blasting your driver off the tee. I mean, you're going to have to score on the par 5s. We know that the par 3s are long too. So it's like, well, there is, 5 par 3s. They're sneaky long. I think 4 of them are over 200 yards. So it plays longer than it is. So I think you're going to see a lot of guys club down, and you're going to still have longer irons into the greens this week. For sure.
When I was watching, I literally went through at least 10 or 11 of the holes on this Google video. And what I noticed was the fairways, they look really wide from the tee box, but the landing areas, they literally get really narrow as you get halfway down the fairway. And then maybe just outside of everybody's distance, they kind of widen up. So every landing area is super narrow. So you're right, clubbing down, irons off the tee, and stuff like that are obviously going to be really, really important. But I also think it's a really important. I think there's 5 of the top 10. You got some pretty decent golfers in this field. This is a great opportunity to tune up for the U.S. Open next week because thick roughs, really tough conditions overall, but also the opportunity to score. People are really going to take. Sometimes they don't take the week before major seriously. I kind of think like Scotty Scheffler, Justin Thomas. A lot of these guys are going to take this course really, really seriously this week.
Well, yeah, I was thinking the same exact thing too. You look at the course layout, looks like it's going to play pretty tough, right? But then you look at the winning scores. Obviously, they haven't been played here. They've been played at Hamilton Golf Club in Glen Abbey. But, I mean, winning scores the last few years they've played have been, minus 22, minus 23, minus 21. So there's been some scoring conditions. I think this course plays a little bit tougher. I think the winning score this week's probably 15, 16 under, somewhere in that range. But like you said, I mean, it's definitely a good tune-up. And with the strength of the field kind of surprised me a little bit. Like, I wasn't expecting this many top-end guys. I mean, super top-heavy.
Yeah, once you get to, like, top-heavy, and then, like, the middle is complete crap.
Yeah, once you get to, like, the 8K range, it's garbage. But, I mean, I'm still surprised. I mean, you have some pretty solid names in this. And, obviously, they wanted to lock down some names when they got rid of their boy DJ.
Yeah.
So, they wanted to lock down some big names.
There. Okay. All right, so you bring up DJ. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. I personally am giving very minimal attention. I'm not betting it. I'm not researching. I'm not writing. I'm not talking about it. The LIV Tour. It's obviously this week, first event in London. Dustin Johnson, former RBC ambassador, not anymore. Took his 125. I always make the joke with everything in life. Everybody's got their price, kind of like the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. Well, we found out what Dustin Johnson's price was. It was $125 million from the Saudis to go over there and play. What is it, 8 events or whatever it is. We'll see what the PGA Tour does. They say they're going to suspend or, penalize these guys for playing and breaking their contracts to go over there to play. But if Dustin Johnson shows up next week at the U.S. Open, you really think they're going to make him sit out. Phil Mickelson now officially, as of this afternoon, is playing this week in London. You think if he shows up next week at the U.S. Open, they're not going to let him play? And I've read some articles that they're going to play it by case basis. It's really going to piss off a lot of PGA players if the big names get a slap on the wrist, and then the smaller names, maybe the Taylor Gooches of the world or the Lee Westwoods, not that they're smaller names, but if those guys think it said you're not allowed to play over here, there's going to be even more, grumblings and dissatisfied golfers if there's inconsistent rules on how they handle it. How would you handle this if these guys are breaking the rules to go over there and play?
Well, gut instinct, my first reaction is that I definitely wouldn't let him play on the tour anymore. But then I don't know if you saw Sia's piece last week. He did a piece on, I forget what network he was doing a guest spot on there, and he's a lawyer. And his point is, you don't think these guys have lawyered up? You don't think Dustin Johnson has spoken to lawyers? I'm sure he has. I don't fault these guys personally for doing this. I mean, I read a lot of guys like DJ's 38. I read one about Matt Jones. I think he's 41. I mean, these guys are saying I don't know if I can contend anymore. Not DJ was saying this, but Matt Jones was saying this. I can't really contend on the PGA Tour, but I can go, to this other tour and I can make $40 million in 3 years or 2 years or whatever it is. It's kind of hard to fault them. And Dustin Johnson's kind of a weird one too, that Andy Lack was talking about today in his podcast that I was listening to. And he was saying that, DJ hasn't been really good for the last 18 months. So when you think of it like that, his career might be winding down a little bit. He's going over there and he's going to make his first contract is worth more than Tiger's made his entire career. That's insane. So I don't know. I think this is gimmicky, and I would be shocked if this whole league exists in a year or two. I think it reminds me of the XFL almost, glorified XFL with more money, pretty much. But I just don't. It seems like a gimmick to me. And you see the strength of the field. I mean, there's 3 good golfers, and the rest are absolutely garbage. So I'm not impressed by it. I don't think it's going to last, to be honest with you, but.
Look, sure. I want to address it. I mean, you kind of said kind of how I was feeling, but wasn't sure how to phrase it. Look, I get when you're being thrown that kind of money, it's kind of hard to pass it up. You know what I mean? But also, you gotta have to have a little bit of standards. You got to know where that money's coming from. I'm not a political guy, but man, the Saudi princes, man, where that money's coming from, are some pretty despicable people there in that royal circle there. So It makes me torn. I get it, man. Everybody's got a price, and you want to play 8 weeks versus 18 weeks, and you want to make quadruple the amount of money and all that, and set your family up and spend more time. I saw a couple of the golfers that are playing saying, "Well, I'm doing it because I'm going to get to spend more time with my kids and stuff like that. That I'll have to play half the amount of events to make double the money." I get all that. I just can't compromise beliefs on, who the people you're working for are. Sure. I don't know. It's tough. I don't want to get too deep into it and all, but
but that's a good point. I mean, what if something goes wrong? I mean, what if there's disputes with the money? I mean, how's that going to work? You're not going to want to go after Saudi Arabian royalty. That's not going to go well for you. So
you signed this 125. I'm just going to use Dustin because the only confirmed. There's a lot of numbers being floated, like Phil Mickelson today, 200. That hasn't been confirmed. The 200 million. The only number that I've seen fully confirmed is the 125 million to Dustin Johnson. And when you sign that deal, you go over there to play for them, you lose all your sponsors, and then what if there was that one reporter that was supposedly killed and whatnot by the Saudi princes and all. What if something else bad happens over there, and they get accused? Now you've just latched your star onto more controversy. Is it worth it? I don't know. Me personally, I would stay away from doing business with those kind of super shady people like that.
Yeah. Somebody brought up a good point today. Like you said, money talks. I heard the quote today that somebody's comparing this, the amount of money that they're throwing around. They're like, money talks. A lot of money talks even more. And it's true. It's it's 100% financial, which it's hard to hate on these guys, but what can go wrong? There's so many things that can go wrong.
Look, I always say anybody that says, money doesn't buy happiness, none of those people were ever actually broke because money doesn't buy happiness, but it sure as hell makes life a lot easier.
It takes stress away. Yeah.
It does. It makes everything so much easier. So I get it. But the thing is, and I almost would justify the lower end guys taking this money.
Yeah, for sure.
Like Dustin Johnson taking $125 million. That's a lot of money. But does he need $125 million? I mean, sure. But, his wife probably, spends quite a bit of his money on a regular basis. But the guy's probably made $100 million already in his career. Does he really need to compromise values at this point? So say that whoever the 40th ranked person on this tour is, maybe he needs that money. but do the top guys? Does Phil Mickelson really need $200 million right now?
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
I don't know. It kind of that's kind of where I'm at with that and all. But do you think, I don't even know, does it have a TV deal? I think it's going to be on YouTube is where they're going to be airing it. I have no interest in even checking it out this weekend. I'll be watching the RBC.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I have no interest at all. I honestly don't know that much because I haven't, other than what I hear like on podcasts, I haven't listened to anything. I haven't read anything. I don't care. I mean, it's like the minor league to me. It's like it's almost like the AHL back in the day with NHL. It's like when you were washed up in the NHL and you wanted to, hopefully come back, you'd go to the AHL for a couple of years and see what happened. That's what it reminds me of. I'm not interested.
I think that's a pretty fair. I was trying to, you know what else? Or I'm a tennis guy. I don't remember what it was called, but they tried to do like a secondary tennis, like a team tennis league.
Yep.
And it kind of, you had like John McEnroe at like 57 years old playing on
Jimmy
it.
Connors,
Jimmy Connors at 60 years old playing on it. That's kind of what, but they were also going up against young guys on it too.
Right.
I remember like Venus Williams going up against, or Serena Williams going up against like Monica Seles, who was like 20 years her elder. So it's kind of like that. The older guys grasping for one last payday, and the younger guys just taking another payday. So
you know what I was thinking too. So there's this kid from, I don't know if you know the story, but the U.S. amateur champion. He went to Michigan. He's from Michigan State. So he is 21 years old. He played in the Masters this past year. He's actually playing on the LIV Tour. Like he's foregoing his eligibility for the PGA Tour, and he's going to play on that tour, which is just crazy to me. It's like 21 years old. You're basically shooting your shot and hoping it works out, and pretty much are never going to be allowed to play on the PGA Tour, which is crazy.
Yeah. That's crazy. At least people like Dustin Johnson, Phil Mickelson, they've got the exemptions to the majors and stuff like that.
Right, exactly.
Never going to get into a major now at this. All right.
I think it's funny too how there's a major next week. So like you're gonna find out the answers to these questions really fast.
You are, yeah. Next week we'll be answering these questions. We'll DJ. Phil said he's going to tee it up next week at Brookline. We'll find out if he's allowed to or not. I just can only imagine what the media circus is going to be like. I mean, it's always bigger at majors. But if you get Dustin Johnson, Sergio Garcia, Phil Mickelson, any of these guys rolling back, it's gonna be interesting. That's for sure. All right, so the RBC Canadian this week, we've already talked about it a little bit. Approach, tee to green, par fives, longer par threes at like 200, 225. Sand saves around the green. What are you looking at? Because that's kind of like where I was zoning in on mainly there stat wise this week.
So I'd say pretty much all those things that you just mentioned. Driving accuracy and off the tee, I'm weighing a lot too. So I'm kind of doing like a hybrid almost in my model where like I want to see guys that are both good accuracy players, but also gain off the tee too. Like I don't want Brian Stewart's the first name that comes to my mind. Like he's always towards the top of the board. Brendan Todd, a guy like that, where it's like they're accurate, they're super accurate, but they lose strokes off the tee. I don't want that in my lineup. So I've been kind of comparing him. I built a model with them next to each other so I can kind of compare across the board, like which guys do both.
I got a question for you there on that, because this is something I've been battling with the last couple of weeks. And this week I went back to what I used to do. There's a lot of stats like you're saying there that they're not the same, but they kind of overlap a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so off the tee and driving accuracy. And do you rather have, say, 15% of your model weighted on both, or just pick the one that you think's better and just go all in on one? So that's I used to just pick one. Then for a little while there, I was going with both and just like doing 15 of each. But this week I just went back to I chose off the tee over driving accuracy, and I just went heavier on off the tee. What are your thoughts on like some of those stats that kind of like around this week? There's a lot of bunkers around the green, sand saves. Do you go just sand saves? Do you go both? Like how do you manage your strategy around stats that kind of overlap a little bit?
So I just changed this the way I did it like a month ago. I used to do it the same way. It's just pick a stat basically. But what I'll do is this week's a little bit different because I actually weighed driving accuracy and off the tee. But sometimes if I want to just see a stat, like I want to see sand saves, but I don't want to wait. But I already put around the green in my model. I'll put it in my model at 0%. So I can still see who's, the good sand players, but I'm not actually weighing it at all. So I think that's the alternative for it. I think this week I did my model. I think I have 3 stats that have 0%. Yeah, 3 stats at the end of my model.
That's what I do with putting normally. I know for very, very specific putting courses, I'll put putting in it, but normally putting's at 0%. DraftKings points is always at 0%.
I was going to say the same thing. DraftKings points.
So things like that are always off to the side, just as like a final tipping point. This week, so just so you know, this week my model, I went 30% of approach because, look, I mean, approach is interesting to me because approach is obviously the second shot, your iron play. But on a course like this where you're clubbing down, I think approach can actually help you weigh that driving accuracy off the tee. A lot of people are going to use irons off the tee, fairway metals and stuff like that off the tee. So I think approach can have an impact off the tee as well. Does that make sense what I'm saying there?
Yeah, 100%. I think, like you said, people are going to be clubbing down. So these greens are smaller from what I'm hearing, and obviously they're surrounded by bunkers. So you're going to want good approach players in your lineup for sure. We don't know exactly where the approach shots are going to come from. I don't think narrowing it down this week is a very good idea, but I think approach is going to be huge this week. I have it at 25%, so pretty much the same as you.
I have 30% for that. I've got 15 for off the tee, 20 for tee to green, and 15 for opportunities gained. That's a majority of my model this week. It's like 80, 90% of my model right there. Obviously, I got a little bit of the par 5 scoring in there because having 3 par 5s on a par 70, I think you're going to have to make some birdies on par 5s this week. It doesn't matter whether you reach it into – I mean, it seems like some of the stuff I'm reading, they're reachable for most guys, or at least with a good tee shot, they're reachable. But those long par 3s, I put the par 3s, 200, 225 in there. I love my shots gained total. That's always in my model. I think this might be the first time I put 5% on sand saves. When I watched that, I read that there's a lot of sand and bunkers in play on this course. And then when you watch the Google maps of this course, you're like, holy crap. And there's a whole bunch of either narrow or funky shaped greens that, at least according to the Google map, look like they slope back towards the bunkers a lot. So, if they hit their approach and they hit a bad approach shot, it's just going to roll or bounce into a bunker right there. So, I don't know if I've ever put sand saves in my model, but I put a little dab in there just to be safe. So
I love it.
Yeah. All right, let's get into it. So the 10K range. It's weird to me, the 10K range, because
it is weird.
Yeah. All 6 of these guys, like I talk about who am I going to play, who am I going to fade, and who am I going to watch on the ownership percentage side of things. I am not fading. I'm not telling anybody to fade any of these 6 guys. I think you could tell me a reason to play any 6 of these guys. I'd be like, that's a fair reason. Scotty Scheffler, world number 1. Best player in the world right now. Justin Thomas, PGA champion, elite approach player. Rory, elite approach player, great golfer. Cam Smith. Cam Smith is playing as bad as he's played in the last 2 years. And he's still, because he's finishing in the top 15 and not the top 5, all of a sudden people are off of Cam Smith. He's still a really good golfer. Shane Lowry, Sam Burns. I think Sam Burns is the most intriguing to me, just because I think he's the one that got a surprising price bump to the 10K range. And I'm hoping that 10K price tag on Sam Burns brings him down a little bit. I know he's won twice in his last 5 or 6 events, but I don't know. Can Sam Burns be that guy that just gets dropped in ownership because of the price tag? I don't know. There's some sticker shock on some guys. I didn't expect Sam Burns to be in the 10K range.
He's been awesome this year, though. Like, he really has been. To me, I don't know. It's kind of what you said is like, you can't really fault somebody for not playing any of these guys. It's more so for me is like, you got to find the little things that I think differentiate. Like, one thing for me this week is like, how am I going to pick between Scheffler, Rory, and JT? Okay, well, I'm going to look at stats, a little bit, and I'm going to look at JT, and we know he sprays it all over the place. 114th in the field in fairways gained. So if he's playing from the rough the entire time, he might be in for a rough, a rude awakening. Scheffler's the same way. I mean, he's 69th in the field too. It's like that kind of worries me a little bit. The easy play for me in this range, it's actually easy this week for me, is Rory. Super good form he's coming in with. He won the last time they had a Canadian Open. Obviously, it was at Hamilton Golf Club, which is obviously not the same course, but it's similar. So I like that. But I mean, I just looked at Rory's stats across the board. His recent form is amazing. And his stats, like first tee to green, first ball striking, first and off the tee, second in par 4. I mean, he lines up for me for this course. And for some reason, I just have a feeling that he is going to be, on fire this week. I think his motivation is really high because he hasn't won in a while too. So I like Rory a lot.
I forget whether it was late in the 3rd round or early in the 4th round I was watching, and they were talking about Rory. And he finished, like 14th or 18th last week?
14th.
And he was leading the field, or at least leading the field that day in bogeys. And he was still, he was making so many birdies, but also you just eliminate some of those bogeys, he might have 2 or 3 wins in his last 3 or 4 events. It's just
what's crazy too?
He's making a few mistakes.
he's not putting it together at all. It's like a lot of these tournaments. I mean, we saw him like at PGA, we saw him at the Masters. It's like he's not contending. Like he's right there when you look at like, okay, yeah, he finished 8th at the PGA. He was not even close to winning that event. Like he was never in contention. But he's like backdooring it. It's like one of these weeks he's bound to put it together. And he's been one thing that's been underrated about Rory is his around the green game and his putting has been awesome lately, that was always kind of like his Achilles heel. And he's turned that around a little bit. So yeah, he's definitely my favorite in this range.
Yeah, I mean, I love Rory. I loved him last week. He was my all-in play, and I don't regret making him my all-in play last week. I think he'll probably be the highest owned of the top five, six guys. I think I actually want to play Cam Smith this week. 13th the last 2 weeks. I mean, 13th at the PGA, and he lost almost 4 strokes putting. 13th last week, and he lost a couple strokes off the tee. Something tells me that Cam Smith, he played as bad as he did the last 2 weeks, and he's still finished in 13th place. And right now, it's really early. This is airing Tuesday night. We're recording this on Monday night right now. He's, at this point, projected to be the lowest owned of the top 6 guys.
I think that's a pretty safe bet. I think he's going to be the lowest owned of the top 6.
If you can get Cam Smith in that 11 to 12 to 13% range, I think it's you basically take Rory at 20+%, Cam at 12%, and call it a day as your 2 plays in the top range.
Yep.
I mean, like I said, I'm going to keep an eye on Sam Burns and see where he goes ownership wise, because I think Sam Burns is a fantastic golfer. I mean, what are the odds he wins 3 events in such a short period of time? I doubt it, but I don't know. I just 10K Sam Burns. I'm just hoping for some ownership value. I don't know there, but
no, I agree with that.
All right, so the 9K range. This is, I like I said, the 8K range is where it starts to get a little out of control with sticker shock. There's some guys in this 9K range that are some really good golfers. I am surprised at 2 things. Matthew Fitzpatrick being 9,900 after missing the cut last week, and early ownership projections have him one of the 3 highest owned guys in this entire field after missing the cut last week. You cannot tell me to play Matt. Last week I started saying you can't call him a top 20 machine. You got to call him a top 10 machine. But then he misses the cut, and he should bounce back. But can you handle a Matthew Fitzpatrick after a missed cut at 9,900 at 20+%?
He doesn't win. I think the main reason for that is he doesn't win. Like, yeah he's been a top 10 machine. He's been a top 15 machine. But it's like Zalatoris was last year when he was on that same kind of run. It's like they don't win. And so I liked Fitzpatrick. I was kind of like doing a little bit looking at the stats before they put the pricing out. And then when that price came out, I'm like, man, at 10K, it's like I like Burns way more. Yeah. I like Cam Smith way more. And they're only a couple $100 more than that. It's like, I don't know how I get on board with that. Especially I did not know that he was going to be one of the top 3 owned. So that makes me off him completely. I'm guessing one of the other 2, probably the second highest owned, is going to be Corey Connors, which
right now, and again, this is very early. Actually, I've refreshed the screen since we started filming this, and now so Matthew Fitzpatrick second. It's Rory, Fitz, Connors, Lowry, Finau are currently the top 5 on FantasyNational.com.
I don't know how I don't even care this week how popular Corey Connors gets. Obviously, he's Canadian, we know that, but he's been so good. I mean, T13 last week, T21 at the Wells Fargo. He's just so solid. His game is so solid. I feel like it sets up perfectly for this field.
You got the ownership discount last week on Corey Connors.
Yeah,
you're just gonna have to. You're gonna have to.
Doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, exactly.
He's gonna be super popular. But I mean, like his stats line up perfectly. He's one of these guys too that I was talking about the off the tee and fairways. I mean, he's 3rd off the tee, 27th in fairways gained. So he's pretty solid off. He's 8th in strokes gained total. I feel like in this field with his win equity, you give me him over Fitzpatrick any day. I feel like he's way more likely to win than Fitzpatrick.
All right, so and being Canadian, so you get the. So you're saying talking about Corey Connors as a Canadian, and I'm on the complete opposite with Adam Hadwin being the Canadian. Adam Hadwin's been a guy I've been all over most of the year, but he's kind of now I don't want to say disappointed, but disappointed in the sense where then he gets a price bump to 9,300 this week.
That's crazy.
It's insane. I don't care what his ownership percentage comes in at. You can't play Adam Hadwin because is there a chance that Adam Hadwin wins this event this week? Really? I don't see him in the top 5 this week. Barely top 10 maybe. You can't even convince me. 9,300 for that guy? I think he got a price bump solely because he's Canadian this week.
He did, for sure, 100%. Well, and to your point too, is like do we think he can win? I don't think he can win. I mean, and he's the guy too that how many times this season, I play him a lot this season too, but it's like half the times he's been super chalky and he's let us down. It's like it seems like whenever he's chalky, it's not a good play. So if he's chalky, I want nothing to do with it. I like actually below him, Keith Mitchell. I'd way rather have Keith Mitchell in my lineup. He's been a super good phone.
I've seen a couple people talk about Keith Mitchell, but that's the first sticker shock price. I'm like, can I really play a Keith Mitchell at 9K? That kind of scares me. I mean,
I know. I was thinking that too. When I wrote it down, I was like,
you're a par 5 guy, scores on par 5s. He's really solid off the tee and stuff like that. He's actually really good in sand saves as well if you want to go deeper dive on the stats. But, man, I just can't convince myself to play a Keith Mitchell at 9K.
I just feel like his win equity is way better than Hadwin. I agree with it. It is sticker shock, too. That was the first thing I thought. I was writing it down. I was writing down some notes. I'm like, 9,000? Oh, my God. I think I played him like he was 6,800 2 weeks ago. Like, that's rough.
All right, so another chalky guy. I mean, I love Tony Finau this week. I know.
Yeah, me too.
Last year, I was all 100% anti-Tony Finau. This year, I'm slowly turning into a Finau guy. I'm looking at his numbers in his last couple events he's played in. 4th at Charles Schwab. I mean, the guy gained strokes. I mean, everywhere. 10.4 total, 7.4 tee to green. He's a great tee to green player. There's no doubt about that. But he gained off the tee. He gained on almost 5 strokes off on approach. 30th at PGA again. Across the board. 41st at the Wells Fargo. He finished 41st at the Wells Fargo, losing almost 8 strokes on approach.
Yeah.
Because that's how great the rest of his game is. Even though he lost 8 on approach, he was still able to, pull it together. And then all the way down to the Mexico Open, he gained over 8 strokes on approach. So that one little minus 7.7 on approach is kind of like a little blip on the radar. He's gained strokes 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 17 of his last 18 events he's gained on approach. And it was just that one little blip on the radar where he lost 7.7, and he still was able to make the cut and have a top 50 finish. I know he's going to be chalky. I know he's going to be highly owned. I'm surprised Tony Finau isn't up at that 9,900 price range that Fitzpatrick's at.
I was thinking the same exact thing.
At that price, I kind of feel like I haven't made a decision on my all-in play this week. I've got an outright on Tony Finau, but I kind of feel like Tony Finau to me is at least in the 9K and above the guy that I'm going to look at and say, I don't care about ownership percentage. I'm just gonna push in all my chips on him.
Does it worry you at all that he is 104th in the field in driving accuracy?
We'll see. I didn't have driving accuracy in my model. No. Well, look, I mean, it's concerning, absolutely. But his just overall, I just think he's good enough tee to green and off the tee that drive again. I'm weighing off the tee more than the driving accuracy this week. Hold on, let's see here. I used to have. I must have deleted off here. I had other stats up here on him. Man,
he's solid across the board. I mean, if you're looking at if you're talking stats
across the board for me, I'm looking at this week with minimal course history, minimal course data, and tournament data. I'm just looking at the most important core base stats this week off the tee to green, and approach, and he's good enough in all of them. Not even just good enough, great in all of them. So, his driving accuracy concerns me, but maybe he'll go back to my dead to me list. I don't know. Maybe no, if I go all in on him and he burns me for a missed cut this week, then he's dead to me for sure.
No, I agree with you too. Like you brought up a good point too. Like his stats, most of the important stats, he's at the top of the field. I mean, 12th in par 5 scoring, 16th in strokes gained total. I mean, he just does it all. Like you talked about his approach game. I thought that was a really good point. Is that he had that one week where he lost 8 strokes, and it's like he's still 8th in the field in approach. He's still an elite approach player. Like that's nothing to worry about. That was one bad week, and he still did okay. So
I want to ask you about one other name because I never play him, but I've heard people in previous weeks always mention his. I don't want to call it boom or bust potential, but a guy that's very volatile. It's Tyrell Hatton. He could be second in this field. He could finish 49th in this field. He can finish 12th in this field. He can miss the cut in this field. Yeah. He's modeling out really well for me. Where is he on my model? He's 14th on my model. He's the second lowest owned guy early on in the 9K range ownership-wise. What are your thoughts on it? Because me, I don't see it. I never play the guy. But everybody keeps saying he's a guy that if you want to take a chance, you got to take chances to win a GPP. That he's the type of guy that you take a chance on to win a GPP in the top tier. I just can't do it normally though.
So I was a Haddon guy for like 2 years or more, probably even more than that, for like 3 years. You know how many times it paid off for me? Like twice, 3 times maybe. Like it's not. If he ends up winning this tournament, I'm okay with that. But I mean, like you said, he models out really well. He is boomer bust. We know that. Here's the problem: 121st in the field out of 156 in fairways gained. I mean, 50th off the tee. I mean, he's gonna lose strokes off the tee. He's gonna find himself in trouble all week. And I know he's good. He's a good iron player. We know that. But I just don't see it this week with him at all. And I think 9,500. If it was 8,500, I would do it. 9,500. That just seems crazy to me. Yeah, I just don't think the win equity is there. Yeah, I mean, he does great overseas. We can't you can't argue with that at all. But like, what does he really do in America?
Won on the PGA? Has he even won on the PGA?
He has, but I forget what it's been a while.
I want to sort my screen's not sorting on him anymore. I don't know. So, yeah, I'm not sure. I stay away from him. I don't know. Any other names in that range before we jump into the 8K range? Because I got some thoughts on the 8K range. Well, real quick. So Chris Kirk in the 9K range. He's a guy that's been getting a lot of high ownership. I actually talked about it last week. Chris Kirk and Aaron Wise, both of them guys that get a lot of play. But the we always talk about win equity. They're two guys that get a lot of high ownerships, but I don't actually ever see Chris Kirk or Aaron Wise getting you over the hump and winning. They've come close.
Except last week. They don't win, but I mean, Wise finished second, right?
Right, so. But so Wise finished second last week. But was he ever really truly in contention last week?
No, but he was
finished 5th a few weeks ago. Was he actually in contention? No. You know what I mean? It's one good round and then a bunch of inconsistency. So you talk about how Hatton it doesn't have that great win equity. Kirk and Wise isn't in the field this week. Kirk's a guy that, to me, I've taught myself the last couple of weeks to kind of stay away from Kirk. Because especially as his price keeps skyrocketing. I mean, yeah, you're going to get sticker shock in a field like this, but yeah, I don't know. It's just another one of those names that I've kind of been backing off of lately. All right,
well, he's a guy too. Kirk's a guy that if it's a value play, if he's 7,500, 7,700, somewhere in that range, yeah, you play him because you don't need him to win. But if he's 9,100, you pretty much need him to top 10. So yeah, no thanks for me.
All right, so the 8K range is really small this week.
It also confuses me a lot this week. I don't know what to do in the 8K range.
And I got, you know what? So to backtrack a little bit, it's the week before the U.S. Open. I think there's a lot of unknowns this week. I'm backing off. I've only got 4 outrights so far this week. I'm only going to do 20 instead of my 22 to 24 lineups this week, I think. Okay? So I'm kind of backing off a little bit. And
I'm only doing 20 instead of 22.
I'm just max entering my 20 lineups. But what I'm saying is I'm taking a little bit more conservative approach on how much I'm investing this week. So I'm kind of willing to take some chances this week. And I look at the 8K range as a place to take some chances. And I look at the 8K range. You've got, listen to these names. You got Patrick Reed, Justin Rose. You got Tagala. You got Vegas. You got Mackenzie Hughes. I can't say Rasmus's last name. Brandon Todd, CT Pan. CT Pan's going to be the chalk of the range. I've already bet CT Pan to win. But he's going to be super high. 80 to 1, CT Pan. I like it. I had CT Pan last week at 150 to 1. And he made the cut. I was hoping.
So I did it again.
I'm looking at the top 3 names. I'm looking at Patrick Reed, Justin Rose, and Sahidi. Is that how you say his first name, Tagala?
Sahith
Tagala? I'm looking at those 3 names. I know they don't model out well, but all 3 early on are between 6 and 8% owned percentage. Patrick Reed's not back, but he's pretty damn close to back. Justin Rose, a club down type course, kind of his bag. And Tagala, he's pretty average across the board on everything. I kind of feel like I got to take a chance with those 3 guys over the higher owned, lower down the board names, and almost play those 3 guys over some of those 9K guys that are going to be super highly owned.
So I didn't even consider Patrick Reed, but you do bring up a good point. He has been a lot better. My 2 favorite
one round the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
He's been in contention if you take 1 round out every single week.
I like the 2 guys that you named right there. I like Rose a lot. I thought it sounds like from what you're saying is that he's going to be sneaky. So I actually put a bet on Justin Rose already too. I like him a lot this week too for the reasons you just said. Thagala's another guy too. Like you said, his stats don't line up. Like you're not going to see his stats and be like, wow, he does anything. I mean, the only stat that he really does well in the field is par 5 scoring. Like you don't really see his stats pop at all. But this guy's a good player. I mean, I feel like I like him better on tougher courses too. So if we think this course is going to play kind of tough, Thagala is definitely the play. Another interesting one to me is Mackenzie Hughes. I don't think I've ever paid $8,400 for Mackenzie Hughes before, but he's another Canadian, if I'm not mistaken, right? Isn't he Canadian?
So yeah.
But he's just a guy that he's 10th in the field in birdie or better, 19th in DraftKings points. It's like the guy just like you don't ever notice him, but he's just solid all the time. And it's like for him to be that in this field, it's pretty impressive. So I don't mind Mackenzie Hughes, but I'm going to be 100% honest. I'm going to go really top heavy this week. So I'm probably going to skip the 8K range mostly in my lineups.
See, I'm kind of feeling top heavy in the 10K. Go Rory and Cam Smith or Cam Smith and Sam Burns. Yeah, I'm gonna have my Finau in the 9K range, but then I'm gonna attack this. I mean, I'm looking at the thing I started looking at now more frequently, and I'll show it. I've got a couple examples to share on the screen when we get to other guys. Is sometimes instead of just looking at it, like looking at the average strokes gained over a five tournament event, or period, or a 10 tournament period. And while Thagala isn't great in anything, he averages out really well over certain stretches. And he's in one of those stretches right now where he's averaging out really well. And same thing with Patrick Reed. He is not back, but he is so close to being back, I think, to the best form he can be. So outside of off the tee, he's lost over his last 5 events, 0.3 strokes off the tee. But everything else he's gaining in his last 5 events. And I'm telling you, I really wish I had thought about it before. I would like to see his strokes gained stats each round for last week, because I bet you it was that, I forget whether it was round 3 or round 4 where he just bombed. Outside of that one round, you take that out, I bet you his numbers look a hell of a lot better last week.
You know what, too? I just thought of this when you were talking, is that those guys, not necessarily that their games are similar, but they're similar in the way of DFS almost, where it's like you don't look at their stats. You look at their numbers like Reed's 126th in my model, Thagala's 32nd, but the stats don't tell the story with those guys. I feel like those guys are a lot better than their stats. And it's like they don't do anything amazing. Like there's not this one thing that Thagala does well, but he's just solid across the board. It's like if you're playing at a tougher track on a narrow, on narrow fairways, I want a guy like him that has kind of shown in bigger events that he's not afraid. He can contend for sure. So yeah, I think I like Thagala the most, but Reed's interesting to me this week too, for sure.
I don't know. It's just something about if I'm going to get back on the Tony Finau bandwagon, I might as well get back on the Patrick Reed bandwagon. Can't let him get off it. On a side note, is he the one that ratted out Hideki Matsuyama, or did his wife?
I think so.
Dude, did you watch the look on Hideki's face as he walked across the practice putting green after he threw his golf ball in the trash can, missed, and just said whatever, kept walking off, man. Dude, I felt so bad for Hideki, and it didn't matter that it wasn't even that I had him in 6 or 7 lineups last week. Dude, that's brutal.
Yeah, that was rough. No, there's not a doubt in my mind that it was Reed.
Who does Hideki fire for that?
The worst part is that Hideki just seems like the nicest guy. I mean, obviously he doesn't speak English, so we don't really get to see what kind of person he really is. But he just seems like he doesn't want to disrupt anybody. He doesn't want to do anything wrong. He's just like that guy, and that just sucks. Yeah, I felt bad for him too. Dude,
I felt so bad for him. All right, 7K range. I'll let you go first here. Where are you looking in the 7K range? I think there's some interesting, take some risks type of plays in this range as well.
So I have a couple. Pat Perez is one of them, which when he gets going, I just always play him. So T26 at the Memorial, T12 at Charles Schwab. So he's decently accurate, 17th in par 4, 18th in DraftKings points. He's good around the green. If he's going well, I'm going to play him for sure. The other one is Tyler Duncan. He's a guy that I often play a lot. I find myself playing. He's in pretty decent form, 8th in fairways gained, 19th off the tee, 36 strokes gained total. He's just a solid golfer, and I feel like that's a good price for him. So those are my 2 favorites. I know Adam Svensson's a guy that everybody's talking about already this week. He's 33rd in fairways gained, 25th in birdie or better. Good approach, good form. I mean, he's a guy that everyone's going to play at 7,100. People are saying that he's the bet of the week and all this stuff. I don't like when guys are like that. It's like a narrative, like, oh, he's the best guy that's never won. It's like is he really going to win? I mean, he's a T40 machine, but like, I don't know.
Yeah, Svensson and Smotherman were guys that were earlier this year. They were kind of trending in the same direction, and they just couldn't get out of price range. But Svensson kind of plateaued a little bit. I actually prefer Smotherman over Svensson this week.
Me too.
Few hundred dollars more. I mean, I placed a bet on Smotherman instead of Svensson, 150 to 1. Why not throw a half a unit that way?
Yeah,
I'm looking at, I love Perez. I love Tyler Duncan. They're both on my potential card. I'm looking at JJ Spawn as one of the guys I like this week. And again, first off, he's
pops in the model.
He pops in the model. Absolutely. Terrible in my model on the par 3, the longer par 3s. Terrible in sand saves. But I bet if I take out the par 3 200 to 225 and the sand saves, he's probably top 10 in my model.
So it's funny because I don't have those things. I have him in my model, but not weighted, and he's 9th in my model. So that kind of proves your point.
Yeah, exactly. I want. This is kind of what I was talking about before, with the ranges, and this is JJ Spawn here. His last, he doesn't make every cut. He doesn't, jump off the page on every single week. He missed the cut at the PGA, but he lost most of his strokes lost at the PGA were on putting. But if you look at it over his last 5 events, he's gaining everywhere. If you look at his last 10 events, consistently he's at winning. So when you get to this lower end, when you're looking for you're looking for more consistency. They might have missed a cut in a deeper field, but in a weaker field like this, if there's enough consistency, maybe they can, make the cut and then see what happens over the weekend. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this style that I'm trying to play here?
No, I like it, especially when you get in the lower ends. I feel like I don't play that game when you get to the higher ends, but like you're talking about $7,700 in a field that isn't all that strong at this end. I feel like I like that because 15th in DK points. We didn't even talk about that. 15th in strokes gained total. It's like, yeah, you're taking a chance. I think he missed the cut at the PGA, right? And I think he WD'd the next week after that. But as long as he's healthy, no one's going to own him. For a guy that pops like that, I think it's worth a try for sure.
I totally forgot he won the Valero. Jeez.
Yeah.
Forgot about that. I wasn't even looking. I didn't even pull up, and I just pulled up his player card. It's missed cut 38th, missed cut 23rd, first 27th, missed cut. So he's got 3 missed cuts and a WD, sprinkled in his last 10 events. So he's not the most consistent golfer. But in a weaker field like this, there's enough overall that says maybe play that guy.
You're trying to win a GPP, you're going to need to get a little crazy. So
exactly. That's
go
kind
for it.
I like David Lipsky down at the bottom too. 73.
Love that guy.
He's a guy that again, he's got 2 missed cuts sprinkled in over his last 6 or 7 events. Not the greatest off the tee, but really good approach player. Solid with the putter. Just solid solid shots gained total overall. So I don't know. Lipsky's a guy that I think can help out a lot. His ownership's not early on. His ownership's not too out of control. Let me see here. Actually, it's a little higher now since I refreshed the screen. He's actually the highest projected guy in the 7K range.
Oh, if that's the case, that's a no-go for me. But I do like him too.
At this point, Monday night at 8:12 on Monday night, he's 13.6%, which is the highest in the 7K range.
Cool. That's high.
Yeah. Now I don't like it as much. Now I'm reading it again. That's why he's in my ownership watch category.
Can you tell me what Ryan Armour is at right now?
Ryan Armour. Again, this is early on, obviously. Let me see. Armour. He is currently at 9.4%. Ryan Armour.
Because he's interesting. Because we know he's super accurate. He was super chalk a couple weeks ago, but he finished T25, so he didn't burn anybody. So I like him too, as long as his ownership doesn't get too crazy.
Yeah. No, Ryan Armour missed the cut 25th. Missed the cut 15th. So that's kind of what you're looking at. But then again, if you go to the general last 5, last 10, and break it down, outside of putting, for the most part, he's gained strokes on average enough times.
He's a guy. He's kind of like a poor man's Kisner. It's like he's not going to pop at. He's not going to do well at courses that are long. He's going to do well at courses that are short, where you need to be accurate. He's not. There's a very specific course set where he can fit in, I think.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's go down to that 6K range.
Which is brutal this week, by the way.
It is so brutal this week. My 6K pick last week, Jason Duffner, just completely blew crap out of the second round last. He was like only like 1 over or 1 under or something like that after round 1 last week. I'm like, yeah, I nailed another one, and then he just goes off like a 97 on Friday and just completely craps the bed. The 6K range is really brutal, like you said, but if you're going to play some top heavy guys, you kind of got to find somebody down here.
Who pops for you?
I mean, who pops or who do I like? Because I think.
Well, who do you like? Nobody pops, but who do you like?
I mean, Vaughn Taylor is 20th in my model. I mean, it's 6,800. 7th in the par 3, 200, 225. 9th opportunities gained, 21st on approach in the last 24 rounds. So he kind of pops. There was somebody else. This is kind of my 6K whisperer of the week. I don't even know if I'm going to say it right. Scott Gucheski. He's 21st in my model. He's 18th in the field last 24, tee to green, 30th on approach, 26 opportunities gained. They're kind of guys that pop in my model. Now, I did write up about Gucheski today. Let me see why I wrote up about him. Okay, so yeah, he's got 3 straight missed cuts. But even though he's missed the cut,
Fire.
He's still gaining strokes off the tee and on approach in most of these events. And then he goes to the Valero, finishes 18th there. Punta Cana in Puerto Rico, made the cut there. So he missed 3 straight cuts. But even though he was missing those cuts, they were deeper fields. And he was still gaining strokes on approach. So he was just in a weaker field. I'm kind of thinking Gucheski might be that guy, that 2%er that can help you turn the tides in a GPP.
My 2%er of the week, Satoshi Kodaira.
He's on my meat. Tell me. I put down as a question mark with him. Convince me to play him.
So I believe he is in awful form, if I'm not mistaken. But 24th off the tee, 7th in fairways gained, 16th in birdie or better, 21st in DK points. Boomer bust, like times 100. We know that, mostly bust. But I like him this week, especially. I feel like on this kind of course, I especially like him where it's a tighter course.
Here we go. Miscut, 15th, miscut, 35th, miscut. So 4 out of 6 miscut. But again, Byron Nelson missed the cut, deeper field or stronger field. He still gained strokes on approach. On a miscut, the Wells Fargo, tough course. Gained almost 2 strokes tee to green, 1.5 off the tee. Only lost strokes around the green at the Mexico Open when he finished 15th. RBC, that was the Heritage. That was a disaster. He lost a shit ton of strokes everywhere.
That was a disaster.
Yeah. Awful,
so I have a safe one too. So that's my chance. My safe one is Adam Schenk. Made 4 to 5 cuts recently. He's like a guy that's not going to pop in the stat models at all, but like he's solid. He's a cut maker. And in this kind of field, he's definitely a cut maker.
He's the highest projected owned guy at this point in the 6K range.
Which means that's a fade for me. Never
mind. 7.8%.
Yeah,
I know a lot of people are going to talk Luke Donald. I'm staying away from Luke Donald this week.
Nope.
Yeah, everybody seems to be jumping on the Luke Donald bandwagon for the old guy. I get it, but that's a no for me. I like the Kodaira. Wesley Bryan, I don't know why I starred him. He doesn't pop in my model, but he's 26. This is why I started him. 26 in approach the last 24 rounds. He's number 1 in sand saves. I don't know. It's just something. He got starred. I'm trying to find something here. Let's see.
Can I just tell you who started the Luke Donald thing?
Who?
Your boy Scotty from last week that you had on. Like he's the guy. He's the reason. Like he's been talking about Luke Donald for like 3 months on Twitter. So that's the reason.
All right. So I knew somebody started something about Luke Donald.
Yeah. He tweets about him at least twice a week.
I want to get behind Luke Donald. I do. People forget he was a world number 1. At one point.
No.
What?
He was like 100 years old now.
Dude, you're going to be there one day. Okay, he could still outdrive you probably on the golf course.
I feel like I am already there, so yeah, I get it.
I'm right there with you on that one. Yeah, 6K is tough, man. 6K is brutal this week for sure.
So good.
You kind of just gotta. I like the Kodaira. I really do. You may have convinced me that he might be the play. Sean O'Hare, my guy, man. I can't believe he's 6,800.
Sean O'Hare.
I love me some Sean O'Hare.
I know, you do.
6,800. He should be 6,100, and then he'd be my play of the week. But yeah, I think it's got to be Schenk, Taylor, Kodaira, on Taylor. I guess that's it down here. Oh, and Gucheski. You got to play Gucheski. Hold on, I have Cameron Person check too. The last time I played him, he missed the cut. The Wells Fargo. Yeah, no, we'll stay away from him.
What are your bets for the week?
The bets this week. I've only made 4 bets this week so far. I've got Finau. I said that 30 to 1. Chris Kirk, even though we just said There's like not a lot of win equity there. I kind of feel like I don't want to miss the boat. There's like 3 or 4 guys. Chris Kirk's one of them. Cam Young, when he's in the field, I kind of feel like I gotta bet Cam Young till he wins and stuff like that. Kirk at 50-1. I won't play him in fantasy in that 9K range, but 50-1, I think that's fair enough. Risk. I got Pan 80-1, and I got Smotherman 150-1. That's all I've bet so far. I thought about throwing something on Sebastian Munoz, but I just haven't figured that one out yet. But that's that.
So I have 4. So I have Connors at 22. I actually think his number is going to go up a little bit. So okay. I like him at 22. I have Keith Mitchell at 50-1. I bet Thagala at 65-1 and Rose at 80-1.
Dude, you might have convinced me to bet in on Rose here because I actually
I don't know. That's like I got a weird feeling about it.
I love Rose this week, so I'm not sure why I didn't place the bet.
Me neither.
And at 80-1, I mean, I have to look maybe even his top 10 or top 20 number.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be a play. All right, we don't really do our competition anymore, but this is a tough week this week. It really is. So I want to test build with you here and see, you're saying it's going to be tough. You can't really go into that 6K range much. I want to try some things out and see what it does for us here to see, what it leaves you. So let's just start at the top. Say I play Cam Smith and Finau's my guy and I throw Tony Finau in there. All right. Throw Justin Rose in there. All of a sudden, I've just gone 3 stars. I'm already left with 7,100.
But I think you could go. That's where you go Kadira, I think, and then that boosts it up a little bit.
Okay, Dyer. That puts you at 67. So that puts you at 74, which back down to that low 7K range. I mean, I guess that's where you play Svensson. No, Lashley. Or you could play Armour there. That doesn't really save you a lot more money. Put Ryan Armour in there at 73. That leaves you 7,500. That puts you in. Go Lipsky. Are you confident with that lineup, or do you?
Not really, but I mean, I don't think you're going to be super confident this week. I like the win equity in it, but I don't think you're going to feel great about your bottom half.
Take Tony Finau out and maybe play JJ Spawn.
See, I feel even worse about it then. I feel like
Dude, it's going to be really tough to build lineups this week. I'm really trying to find a way to feel confident with a lineup.
I have a thought about this. So I've been thinking about this earlier too. I haven't built any lineups or anything, but I was thinking about the same thing. I feel like this is a week where you want sure guys in your lineup. You want the Finaus, you want Cam Smith, you want Rory's, like guys like that. Like I'm gonna be 100% honest. I'm gonna build from Rory and Connors. I don't care how young they are, and then I'm gonna worry about it after that. Because I think those guys are sure bets to do well this week, and then I'm gonna worry about the rest later.
Because Rory's 10-5 and Connors is 9-6. That leaves you with 7,400 to go the rest of your lineup. So then you go Kadire, which is a boom bust risk thing. You're at 77.
That's not terrible. I mean, that's doable.
Not terrible. I guess that's when then you can throw another 6K. Like I like Vaughn Taylor or Schenk. You can go either or. You mentioned Schenk. You can play Schenk in there for the 2-6K. That puts you back up above 8K. You can play some of these, you can throw Pat Perez, who you like, in there. That leaves you 87, which means you could play. You liked Mackenzie Hughes, you said this week.
Yeah. See, I like that lineup way better. It's just play the guys at the top that you like, and then worry about the other guys, and try to find some low guys down at the bottom. I feel like that's the way to go.
It's a really as elite as the top end of the field is. The bottom end is so unelite that it's making And I don't know why the bottom end is so not elite. I know there's guys out there trying to qualify for the U.S. Open this week. You would think. I mean, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Ricky. Matt Wolf withdrew from his qualifier today. I don't know if you saw that.
Did he really?
Yeah, he. I don't. They haven't said why he was.
I didn't know that.
I forget what they said. The exact thing. The event he was in, top 4 qualified, and he was 9 or 10 holes into his round, and he was in 5th place. So he must have gotten hurt. He wasn't playing off.
Oh,
one of the injuries must have, or he's just so used to withdrawing from events,
He's like, I suck. Wait, no, you're in 5th.
You withdrew? Oh, I already marked you down as withdrawn. I just overheard something that sounded like you said withdrawal, and you say it so many times. But if you win this event or you finish in a certain position, doesn't that automatically qualify you for the U.S. Open?
I think so.
Would you prefer to try to go through the qualifying process or just win a PGA event or just finish well? This is a pretty weak field here.
Yeah,
I don't know. The people that are using the qualifiers instead of this event to make the U.S. Open, it's kind of
weak.
Yeah, I don't know. Trying to beat out a bunch of hacks at the local community club, instead of going to the PGA event. Come on now, challenge yourself a little bit. It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be really interesting. Do you have any early favorites for the U.S. Open next week?
Oh, I haven't thought about it too much. Just a big dog. I mean, I feel like Rory's going to get one sooner or later. Honestly, I feel like I know that's easy. That's kind of the easy way out. But my early lean is probably him and Xander are the two guys I like the most.
Xander. Okay.
I think his time's coming too. What about you?
I mean, earlier before the season started, my original prediction, because he hadn't won an event yet, I thought Scotty Scheffler, good old American boy, Texas boy, was going to win the U.S. Open.
Now he's got 4 wins.
Yeah, but now he's got like 6,000 wins already. You can't really. I mean, you take Tiger Woods and his massive run out of the equation. Has anybody won many more than 4 times? Like, it's got to be really hard to win 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, including a major too. That's crazy.
A major. So you really got to take Scotty Scheffler off the board. Yeah, I don't know next week. I really think one of the guys that finishes well this week, if Tony Finau has a deep run this week, this tune-up this week, I think it really is going to matter. But yeah, Rory, I like Rory. Cam Smith, man. Cam Smith's going to win a major. I was really
awesome.
Yes, I told you at the beginning of the year when we first started season 2 here.
That's your guy.
Every single week. Bet Cam Smith every single week. And then after the first 2 rounds, he's leading the way. I'm like, God damn, why did I skip playing Cam Smith? And it didn't backfire as much as I thought, but I really was ready to really burn it all down after the first 2 rounds.
Right.
All right, so thanks for coming back. Thanks for the band getting back together.
Yeah, man, it was fun.
I lost out my bass player for the last month or 2.
No, it was good times. I'm glad I came back.
Good thing. All right, final, all in. If you had to pick one player to go all in this week, who are you going all in on?
Corey Connors.
Okay, it's Tony Finau versus Corey Connors for the title, celebrity deathmatch style. Everybody, thank you very much for tuning in. Make sure you share it out, like it, retweet it. You know the drill. Subscribe on YouTube. This show is airing right now. This is the 7 o'clock hour on DSM Media. Make sure you stay tuned at 9 p.m. Debut of a new podcast. It's called Hate to Feel. It's going to be all about mental health awareness, suicide prevention, addictions. My main man, Jason Voorhees, not this Jason, the other Jason. It's his baby. I'm going to be on with him, helping him out a little bit, helping him, keep it organized and stuff like that. But make sure you tune in and spread the word. Hate to Feel. It's going to be a fantastic podcast. A lot of great information tonight on the debut episode. Jason's going to tell his story about where he is and how he's got to the point in his life. And it's a pretty intense story, Jason. And the fact that he's willing and open to talk about it, that in and of itself, moves me that he's willing to tell his story. So everybody, make sure you tune in and stay tapped into DSM Media for Hate to Feel tonight, 9 p.m. Everybody have a great night. We'll talk to you next week on Fairway to Heaven. And I'm telling you, why not be this week? Everybody's taking a back seat this week. Let's win a GPP this week.